Our next speaker is Rebekah Palmer. She's a patient advocate, and she's going to talk to us about Medicare coverage challenges for cystinosis patients. Rebekah.
Thank you for the honor and opportunity to speak on behalf of the cystinosis community. I appreciate your time and your attention today. Yesterday, I was completely overwhelmed with the tangible love I witnessed from parents advocating for their children. And that feeling, it just took over me again when I listened to Stephanie and Nicole. I saw my mom in them when they were talking. Because to me, the greatest love in the world is between a parent and their child. That's the only love I can think of that is completely unconditional. I would like to preface my statements by giving you a quote from who my opinion, is the greatest advocate of all time. And that was the advocate that bridged the gap between God and man, Jesus Christ. And his words always come to me. They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. And this brings about the three issues that I would like to discuss with you today. Rare disease patients should receive aid based on their lives with disability, not on their income. Number two, adulthood is not eradication of a genetic disease. Just because your child turns 18 does not mean that is their magic number and they are completely healed. Number three, prior authorization for a lifetime drug every couple of months is ridiculous. As Tony said, I'm a patient advocate for cystinosis. I am an adult living with the lysosomal disorder, cystinosis. It is amino acid depletion, like I've heard explained by these other rare diseases. My body does not process protein. The amino acid cytosine is missing, so my cells crystallize the protein, and they attach on all the major body organs, starting with the kidney, and the eyes, the brain, the pancreas, the liver, the muscles. It's progressive. I have a great life living with my disease, and I tend to focus on the positives, what I can do. I will never be working an 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. job. But what I can do is I can teach piano lessons for half an hour. I do hold a bachelor's degree in teaching, and I can volunteer teach in my community. Currently, I have a student who is working on his GED, and I learned so many amazing things from him, and he inspires me. I also am an author. I wrote a book. You don't have to work 8 to 5 to do that. I'm going to tell you a few stories that illustrate my points. I grew up in a middle-class family. My mom is self-employed, my dad works for the agricultural industry. So you can imagine the jokes with my mom being pregnant. My dad works with cows, and that was quite interesting growing up in their home. So my parents never qualified for any extra help for me. I live in Wisconsin. The Katie Beckett program we never qualified for. Wisconsin Medicare or Medicaid. Pardon me. And that brings about my first point with, we should have been judged by my disability, not my parents' income. I was a child, I didn't make an income. So when I was 18, my parents encouraged me to apply for Social Security, disability, income, and Wisconsin Medicaid, because I would never be able to hold a full-time job. When I went to college, I did work scholarship, and they valued me and encouraged me to be the best part-time secretary I could be. And with their encouragement, I was able to graduate college on the work scholarship. I did apply for SSDI and for Wisconsin State Medicaid, but I was not able to get it until I was 21. 3 years after I had applied, after paperwork, I went to the court hearing, and when I went to college, I packed my medication in a Nike shoebox, so yay big. And I remember sitting in the waiting room and the secretary looking at me because she could see the medicine labels through the little holes, and she said, "Are you here for the disability hearing?" And I was like, yes. And she's like, why aren't you on Medicaid yet? And I handed her the box and said, you tell me. The other story I would like to tell you is one that happened recently. In the past year, I have not received my treatment for my medication twice due to holds from Wisconsin Medicaid and the CVS Caremark Pharmacy, who is the only pharmacy that dispenses the treatment for cystinosis. We take a pill called Cystagon that slows down the progression of the illness and sustains quality of life. And the first time that happened, I was without my medication for 2 or 3 days. I ended up calling insurance and the pharmacy, and it was lack of communication on their end. This last month, I was without my medication for 9 days. I was on the phone with a patient manager, courtesy of Raptor Pharmaceuticals, very helpful. The whole Thursday afternoon, we were on the phone for 4 hours between CVS and Wisconsin State Aid. My dad got on the phone, my mom got on the phone, my transplant coordinators got on the phone. We figured out that was Wisconsin Medicaid and CVS were saying it was the doctor's fault. We needed prior authorization. To require prior authorization every 3 or 4 months for a medication that I'm going to take my whole life and I'd already been on for 22 years was completely ridiculous to me. This wasn't a 3-month prednisone for a lung infection. This was the drug that allows me to live and contribute to society. This was denying me the right to life. Prior authorization, I understand why they're requiring the paperwork, but for somebody with genetic illness, it's not feasible to our lifestyle. So I would suggest either make it required every couple years for somebody with a genetic illness, so it's not this holdup on getting their medication. And if it's a holdup on paperwork, what's wrong with sending an emergency supply to a patient and their families? I tell you the psychological implications. That was the first time I saw my dad eat a bowl of ice cream with a dill pickle. He was so incensed, he ended up calling the governor's office in Wisconsin, and we have a beagle, a dog, and my dad was so lit that Buddy and I were just looking at each other and both kind of cowering because he told the political advisors on the other end, someday, Buddy, your daughter's gonna be sick. Your child's gonna be sick, and I really hope there's a guy at the other end of the phone telling me your daughter can't get her medicine because you didn't fill out the right questions on a piece of paper. And Buddy and I were, whoa. But I see that, I see my father's passion for me. I see the passion, I hear the passion in Nicole and Stephanie's voice, in your voices when I sat in some of the rooms the other day, and you care. I matter to you, your children matter to you. And when I look at that, that's what inspires me to be here. My parents love me, I love them, I want to give back to them. And what I want to impress upon you the most is that without that love, if my parents didn't care about me, my parents wouldn't matter. If you didn't care about your kids, you wouldn't matter. Your other children wouldn't matter. Your friends, your loved ones, all the way down to you. Because we all age, we're all going to be sick someday. And if souls don't matter, then where are we going to be as a people? What are we doing for those who need help, those that need a physician, they that be sick need a physician? And I'm so encouraged to be here today. I'm grateful to be here today, and all of your stories have inspired me. Thank you so much.